Ready when you are.
Yeah, I'm just putting us on live now. Do you want it to check that one out? It's live.
It's live. Hey, everyone.
Alrighty. Hello. All right. I was just going to share it around a bit. But that works. So if you're joining on the replay, I feel like we're going to get started in about a minute because I'm just going to share something. And I just want to connect it to the event, that's all. And it's so slow.
It pops up on mine as well. Get a little thing. Hey, it's me.
Share cool. Do you want to share it to your group as well?
Let's just get started.
All right. No worries. It's going to be recorded anyway. Beautiful. Okay. Well, I did a little share. There you go. All right. Welcome, everyone. I just want to first introduce our guest, and then I'm also going to say that you're welcome to comment below, and I'll check them out, and we'll keep in touch. If there's anything that wants to be brought into the conversation, we can do that. So I'm here. My name's Dylan, and this is Eesha. I don't know which side we're on. Eesha, look, most of you know Eesha, let's face it. So if you don't know her, go check out her Facebook page. She's pretty switched on. She knows what's up. And I'm going to have a conversation with her. I don't have any plans yet necessarily. I got a feeling a few things I'd like to talk about, but I just want to say, how are you today, Eesha? How are you going? And welcome to the space.
Thank you, Dylan. I'm really excited about this chat. And I also don't know exactly where this is going, but I find that those conversations are generally my favorite types of conversations because there's a lot of open-endedness. All I know is that at some point we are probably, as of probably now when I mention it, going to go full-on Galactic, and there's going to be 4 weeks of epic conversation on that. So
yeah,
with that,
and beyond. And beyond.
And beyond.
I love beyond too. I also want to come back down to earth as well. In fact, I was just looking at, before I got on the conversation, at the Cosmic Conference in Uluru that's happening on the 21st or the 20th of December. I know you're going, and I got a lot of feelings inside of me watching that. So I've probably been drawn there too. You're presenting at that, aren't you?
I'm exhibiting. Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
Wow.
And there's some pretty amazing names at that conference as well.
What are you going to be talking about?
Ooh, I was going to be like, I don't want to spoil it. The truth is I actually don't know yet.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Speaking, I'm not going to be on stage. I'm not speaking, but I'm exhibiting. So I'll have like a stall there. I may or may not have my book ready to sell by that point. The plan is to at least launch pre-orders by the 21st of December.
Yep.
Whether or not I'll have an actual physical copy ready by that time, it might be a little optimistic. But yeah, the plan is to sell my book and just connect with people about consciousness. And for me, it's basically just a massive opportunity to meet people and to just be in that space and share what it is. So, because I'm not speaking on stage, it's going to be a little bit more of just like connecting and networking and that sort of vibe. So, you know, anyone who's in town around that time, come say hi to me. I'll be there. And if you're there,
in town, in Uluru.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I happen to be in Uluru at this time, and this massive conjunction, this massive day.
Well, there's a lot of people going. There's actually thousands of people going to Uluru on the 21st of December. Oh, yeah, it's massive.
Thousands. So why are people going to Uluru on the 21st of December, Eesha?
Like, which version of this do you want? One obviously is the conference. The conference is attracting quite a lot of people. I imagine there will be at least a few hundred, if not 1,000 delegates at this thing. It might be a little bit less actually with COVID restrictions and stuff, which some events are being a little bit diminished because of that. But yeah, so on the 21st in Uluru, there's a major energetic portal that's been like at least a decade in the making. And so when we go there, there's going to be a lot of light activations. There's going to be a lot of star family connections. I've heard there's going to be several attempted landings in that space. So I'm going there like pumped. I'm like, come on, this is going to happen. So yeah, I'm super excited just to see, you know, what light we can bring in. Now, the other thing with Uluru is that Uluru is a major energy center for the whole planet. So on the solstice this year, particularly being 2020, there's a massive, massive wave of light that's coming in right now. And when this light actually anchors into Uluru, it's going to ripple out through to Lake Titicaca is the first one I've seen. Mount Shasta is the other one I've seen, but also all the other major chakra points of the earth. And the big thing about Lake Titicaca is that there are underground portals in the lakes at Lake Titicaca which connect to the Venusian gateways and also the ancient Lyran portals. So when that connection comes in through Uluru, there's a massive network that's been built up over several years. And I know this because a number of those connection points I've actually done myself. So the one between the particular line running between Uluru and Lake Titicaca that I've actually done a lot of clearing on, and I've actually like created some of those networks myself. So I know those connection points because I've done all this planetary work in the last few years. And I actually went to Lake Titicaca in 2017 and anchored in the two different points. So I visited Uluru 2016, I did Lake Titicaca 2017, and actually connected up some of those threads of light. So I know that when we go and do this work now on the 21st, it's going to be running through some of those connection points that myself and of course many others have been laying down over many years in the particular grids of the earth.
Where is Lake Titicaca?
Lake Titicaca is it's in Peru. It's actually on the border of Peru and Bolivia.
Okay, so, cool. I heard the first, like, the Dreamtime story is something like there's like awakening this rainbow bridge that's going to go over to New Zealand. That's the first like nodal point.
Yes, that's also happening. And New Zealand, it has in my awareness. I actually just got my New Zealand passport the other day because I'm feeling like I'm in New Zealand. So I've reinstated all my citizenship and everything over there so that if I ever need to, I can just
You're a New Zealand citizen?
Yeah, I lived there for a few years. So before I came to Australia, I was actually in New Zealand. I lived in Auckland. And so I am actually a New Zealand citizen as well.
There you go. That's cool. So yeah, so we talking about then like a influx of light and it's centering upon Uluru and it's spreading down these nodal points or to these nodal points across the planet. And what's that? What is like? Can we talk to me a bit more about that? What's that? What is that?
What do you mean? Like the actual grids themselves?
Yeah. So why is that a good event? Why is that a big event?
Well, it's to do with the light frequencies coming in. You know, there are certain points on this planet that when we open up those lines of connection, they actually ripple out through the rest of the planet. This one to me feels like honestly one of the biggest ones of the decade. Like it feels massive.
Yeah, I wanted to get your feeling. What are you feeling in Uluru? Like, what's that? Because there's an energy there that I can feel, and it's. Like, do you know how to describe it? Like.
I don't know how to describe it other than it's just like a massive wave of light. You know, I see things quite visually. So for me, I'm looking at it going, okay, so on December 21st, there's like these beams of light coming in through the rock, and underneath, it's actually what's happening under the rock that's of most significance. Because a lot of the energy of the rock is not so much the rock, it's actually underneath the rock, because it's the same as like, you know, like with the pyramids, it's like you have the energy that goes up like this, but it's actually the downward facing one that's equally significant. And when you have the two together, the top and the bottom, that's where a lot of the magic happens. So and I feel like the Egyptians knew this. I feel like they knew the significance of the underground portion of that, you know, like the actual downward pointing energetic pyramid.
That's actually where the energy I feel is. It's actually underground. Like when I tap into that, the only thing I see like this vortex of almost white blue, just beautiful power, like it's super dense or super close to each other, and it's underground somewhere. And it's like that's going to connect, and that's.
Yeah, it's definitely at that grid level. Like it's to do with the ley lines and the grids and the way the song lines move through. Like the energy of the land. It's that's how I see it. Like I actually see threads of energy that move through the land, and then I see how those node points connect up with the other node points. So like Lake Titicaca is a massive one, and it's actually that one actually has a couple of major portals, but there's one in particular that's I don't know geographically where it would be, but I know where I was standing, which was on the Bolivian side of Lake Titicaca. We went into this like sort of the edge of the lake, and I remember it was like on the far side of that, so it was like on the where I was facing, it would have been like northwestish, and like there was a spot underground that I was tuning into.
Okay.
I know that doesn't make any sense to somebody who hasn't been there, but there's a particular spot that I was standing at, and I've got the visual in my head.
I've seen it. I'm imagining it too.
I'm
Yeah.
sure
Wow.
we could pinpoint it, but yeah.
Yeah. So they're all calling, like, there's a few people calling this like the age of Aquarius, the whole conjunction between Saturn and Jupiter, starting at 0 degrees Aquarius, and then this light. And do you think this is going to take it's going to be a particular powerful day, or do you think this is just going to be not much and it's just going to take time to integrate? And what is we're going to see like acceleration and evolution from here, acceleration and awakening?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if everything goes according to plan, this is the wave of light that tips everything back into a much higher ascension timeline, because 2020 there's been not quite what we were going for this year. And there's been a number of attempts, to actually derail the ascension timeline, because 2020 was supposed to be the year where like everything just kind of exploded and we were all like geared up for it. And then right at the end of 2019, the corona timeline actually activated. And of course, there are beings that, put a lot of energy into make that happen. So when that happened, it was like the ascension became a lot more dense because of that. And so there's still this sense of, though, like, that with what's coming through on the 21st, if all of that goes according to plan, we can actually still catapult through next year and go back onto that high vibing ascension timeline that we really want to be on. Either way, it's going to happen. It's just the way that it happens at the moment has a few more casualties than the one we'd like.
Because it's feeling rough, right? And I'm feeling it in not just in myself, but everyone I've been connecting with that's in any way aware is like just a lot of shit happening, wading through a lot of stuff. And like, it doesn't seem to be like anyone is immune to that. And it's like the most aware, the most, like, I imagine even yourself, like, is still feeling very like, ooh, like, and it feels, I get the feeling like that's going to happen up until this point. And then at this point, like, I literally see like almost like the gates of heaven opening and like this light flooding through, and I'm going to float downstream. Something like this. And it does feel a lot like 2021 feels a lot like golden lighty. And I'm prepared for that. Someone's like, sent a link into this magic box idea, which I don't know if that's a indigenous, I'd love to know if you do know anything more about that, if that's an indigenous thing, but that's what's supposedly going to be activated, like this magic box that exists. And that was what I got from Avon and Stephen Strong. Have you heard about that?
A lot of people have been talking about it. I personally haven't felt the need to go too far into that concept. I can feel the energy. I can see the energy of what's happening, whatever you want to call it, like whatevs, I'm just, I sort of stay away from some of that stuff because like there's a lot of things that get said on the internet. And for me, I'm clear on what my mission is when I go there, and I know what I need to be doing, and I know where I need to be. And I'm sure other people have their own missions as well, which I totally respect as well. So I know that, like, I'm aware consciously that thing is happening, but I haven't felt like I need to personally go and put a lot of energy into looking into that.
Yeah. Do you not feel like it's just like a distorted translation of the pure energy that's happening? Like some of those concepts that we throw around? Or
all I know is that I felt not to look into it. So I've just gone, cool, it's not for me. Like, it's not for me, and that's cool. Yeah. I'm okay with that. And like everyone's talking about it, and I'm like, cool, I'm just putting my blinkers on and I'm doing what I'm here to do, because I find that for me, whenever I'm doing planetary missions, if other people's ideas and stuff, cloud my judgment, it actually prevents me from doing what I'm doing. So every time I do a planetary mission, I'm so on the fly with everything, and I actually try not to read anything about anything. Same as like, last year when I went to the UK, there was this whole thing about Dublin and DNA activations. And I consciously, I didn't do any research before I got to any of these places, because I knew that when I got to where I needed to be, I would get told, I would get guided to where I needed to be and what I needed to do. And a lot of magic happens in that, because like later on, for example, in Dublin, there was a particular spot there it's called the Spiral. It's like a massive big tower. And I didn't know anything about it, didn't know that it existed, like no idea what it was whatsoever. and I just got told, like, get out your hotel and walk. Like, I literally just went for a walk, and I landed at this place at exactly 11 a.m. and got told to do a DNA activation. And then later I looked up what that spiral is and its significance and yada yada yada. And then there was something about like DNA. I think the spiral, if I remember correctly, is actually modeled off the DNA. I think that is the whole like purpose of that, which I didn't know consciously anything about that. All I got told was go to this like weird silver looking thing. What is it called? It's called the spire. That's what it is. Go to this weird silver looking thing and do a DNA activation. And that's it. Like, that's as far as I got, and then I put all the intellectual pieces together after I'd done it. And I find me, it's a beautiful way to operate like that, because then I'm not bringing my mind into what needs to happen. I'm actually just being present to what I need to do, where I need to be, bringing in the energies that need to happen. And then later on, the whole thing makes sense. And you're like, oh, of course it is that. But I don't feel the need to always consciously know every single tiny detail of that.
Yeah, I love that. I think that keeps a certain level of purity to the whole work. And I experience the same. It's like, otherwise, like, this mind stuff starts coming in, and you miss the truth of the moment. Yeah,
and you can get really caught up in, oh, I should be here because that's what everyone else is doing. It's like, no, I'm just going to flow in the alignment that I feel guided, and it might not be the same as other people, because this is the other thing. I'm not the only person doing this work, and I know at Uluru there are going to be so many light workers there, and everyone's going to have their own individual mission. And so, like, I fully respect what everyone else is doing and their guidance, but I know at the same time, I really need to put my blinkers on and just do the piece that I'm there to do, knowing that it's going to contribute to the greater whole, and that whatever it is in the bigger picture, there is this harmony that I can trust in and know that it's all going to be perfect.
Amazing. So I can't let you leave or escape without coming back to the idea that potentially there's going to be landing.
This is what I've heard. That's the part that makes me really excited. I know that Aru Terra, my Starship, has actually done a couple of test landings. Actually, there's been 3 particular landings this year where it's actually come onto the ground level. And one of them, Lily, has actually walked on this earth. Like, she's actually
that must be exciting for you. Oh my God.
Months ago. Yeah, that was in, I can't tell you where actually, but yeah, it did actually happen on this planet, and there were particular things that got put in place for that. So yeah, we're looking at December 21st, 2020 as like, as a major potential opening for actual landings to come into 3D, which is one of the reasons why I'm going. Because I'm like, there is no way those starships are coming down without me there. So I'm like, if you're coming, sign me up. I will greet you there. And I've had visions of Ashtar coming on his starship, and that I'm actually there to greet him when he first lands. Like, I'm actually...
Yeah, of course you've had that vision. So have I.
I've seen it. Like, it's just... And it's the clarity in that vision is huge. It's like, I see this big field of just, there's like grass, and I see the ship coming down, and there's me and there's a couple of other people there, and we're actually greeting them as they come in. So that excites me a lot. That's not what's happening on the 21st. That's happening a bit later on. But what they're doing for this one is they're actually testing the capacity to actually land, because to come through those dimensional layers, there's quite a lot that needs to happen, at the light level and the structural level. And then of course there's the whole thing about the beings that don't want them there. So, there's a bit of that too. But just testing that capacity to actually come through the atmosphere and be visible.
Do you think that's the capacity for the collective, us, like to hold the space for that as well? Is that, or is it you're talking about their technology?
Yeah, it's a bit of everything. I mean, it's the, yes, it's the technologies, it's the beings that don't want them here, it's the governmental stuff. Like, there's a lot of stuff in that mix. But like back in the 60s and 70s, there used to be ship sightings all the time. There's so many stories and so many photographs and stuff. And then, I mean, a lot of things are put in place to actually hide that. And so, in the last probably 20 years or so, there's been a lot less of the actual physical sightings, but telepathically, there's been a lot going on, because as people have started to energetically, suddenly it's like people are awakening to these, these connections. And the more people that do that, the more it does enable that to be, grounded and anchored onto this planet.
Yeah, I like that. I like what you're saying there. You're actually drawing a good picture, because that's what I used to. I was wondering about, because there's been heaps of UFO stuff in like the 50s and the 60s, right? And then over in the 70s. But for a while, there's just been like not too much physical wise, but there's been so much more expansion in knowledge about them. So it's that would be confusing for people, right? But I think it's all that, yeah, that telepathic upwards connection that we experience, or that you can experience. What do you think that means for humanity if that happens, and if that becomes like? Because I'm getting like, if that happens and there's enough people witnessing and there's enough footage and documentation, and like what does that mean? Like, what?
It'll be like hallelujah.
Yeah.
Waiting for.
Because like that would be enough to like just pull the blinders off like billions, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, there's just so much. Yeah, I mean, when that moment actually happens, I feel like there's going to be such a massive wave of love that people just find that connection. And
Yeah.
this is also the thing, right? Like, and one of the reasons why they aren't just landing straight away is at the moment there's so much negative connotations and there's so much of a fear response around that due to like the media and the way that they've been portrayed, and which is all intentional, right? It's all intentional propaganda, whatever. But so yeah, like there is this stigma around it, and the last thing we want at the moment is for, you know, these beings to land and then suddenly humanity goes to war with the ETs. Like that's, you know, that's not the frequency that we want to create. So really it's about how can we actually bring it in from the inside through, you know, like through permission. Like humanity actually gives that permission and says, yes, we're ready to connect, yes, we're ready to actually have that level of connectedness in ourselves and that love, and can we anchor these energies in a loving vibration so that when they do eventually come back and they reconnect with us, that it's done from a heart space. Because otherwise, I mean, you understand, Dylan, that there's, you know, different frequencies and different beings and stuff. And if the whole planet goes into fear from ETs, it's just going to be like the reptilians and the greys and stuff that then take over again. So there's a, you know, there's a really fine line in all of this of how do we actually get to this higher dimensional connection without everyone going into fear, so that we're not co-creating this you know, like this war doomsday sort of timeline, which yeah, I mean, some beings certainly want that to happen. And I can tell you right now, that is not the timeline that we're on. There's actually a very optimistic timeline and a lot of lightness in the way that we're doing this. But that is a reason why, one of the reasons why they're not just suddenly appearing straight away, because you have to be so mindful of the energetic impact of that.
So basically, would the better approach to this be like segment, like coming in a little bit and I'm thinking, like, if they do land on Uluru, right, then maybe we shouldn't tell anyone, like we shouldn't tell the media, sort of thing, because I'm thinking if it's almost like the way it's going to be presented in the media is what's going to initiate a lot of the fear. But if they just land, we feel the frequency and we spread that, and that just ripples out, then that's probably a better way.
I don't see a mass sighting happening anytime soon. If they do land, it'll be like a very small group of people that see it, and they'll be able to hold that, and it'll be done in a very specific way. Like we're just at the point for like a mass level of exposure.
Yeah, that's what I'm sort of getting at. Like the feeling of like Uluru would be just so we can like almost have that taste, or like have that upgrade, or have that expansion, and almost to make more space again to next to building upon that, and that might take years. Hey, do you see
how many years?
Yeah, well, what do you see? Like, is there a point where like intergalactic Earth becomes an intergalactic civilization, and what does that look like? And yeah, why would we want to do that?
Far away. It's really not. I mean, it was supposed to happen in 2012, and then the timelines got extended. 2020 was the next big marker, really. We do have like a current read of like where that trajectory is going, but there is so much fluctuation, especially this year. This year, the timelines have been almost impossible to pin down. It's like every 5 minutes there's a new timeline that's at the forefront, and so I guess the big thing really is, you know, it comes down to how quickly are humanity willing to embrace and surrender to that love and to recognize ourselves as multidimensional beings. Because the moment you recognize that and you feel that in your heart and you open yourself to that, it's like each person that does that becomes an extra anchor of light on this planet. And the more we have, of course, the faster we go. So it's not so much about you know, what they're doing. It's about what are we doing, which then comes back to the practicality of the humans and the awakening and our role, which is just as important as what they're doing, because ultimately ascension can't happen without all of our permission as well on some level.
So what does it look like? If that's all hunky-dory, what does 5-10 years intergalactic Earth look like?
Oh, I think it'll be well done in a decade. I mean, God, I'm not waiting around longer than that for this. Oh dear Lord, no thank you. We're so close. We're so close. Like, it's just, I've been watching this for the last few years going like this year is like the pinnacle point, you know, this is really that tipping point. Yeah, in a decade from now, we will be well into the transition. And by transition, I suppose a better word perhaps is even integration, because when that event happens, like that event of like mass connection and love vibration going into the hearts of all people, which the event is the 21st of December, there is going to be a process of about 10 years after that where people's lifestyles and the way that we live will start to shift and change, and everything will move, because there will be a collapse of, you know, certain economical things. There will be like a restructuring of governmental systems, like, you know, money systems, like all of that is going to be restructured. And some of those things are not going to happen overnight, but you can see already, if you look into the timelines of where some of those things are going. And if the ultimate timeline, you know, is triggered, which we're pretty close to anyway at the moment, then yeah, in about 10 years time, what happens is the entire economic, governmental, structural systems of our planet go back into what we call like a 6-dimensional grid of harmony. And in that harmonic, we actually lose like a lot of the hierarchy, because at the moment we live in a very hierarchical system, which is not high vibrational at all. It's actually very controlling, and it's not a cool thing. So when we ditch the hierarchy, then we actually enter a state of co-creatorship with humans who actually know their power in this universe. Like humans, you understand that when you think something, that creates something in the matrix. And so when there is a conscious co-creation happening at a mass global level, then, you know, things like money become redundant, things like governments become redundant, education systems start to change, suffering starts to end, you know, people start sharing resources. We actually have enough food on this planet to feed the world like 2 or 3 times over at least. We have enough resources on this planet to support every single human multiple times over. And yet here we are living in a society where, you know, there's so much disparity between the rich and the poor and the third world countries and the first world countries, and there's suffering, and then there's just everything that comes with that, you know, people that are living from a place of survival and what that's creating in the matrix. So when people wake up to that, and that event, that flash of love actually comes into people's hearts, what's actually going to happen is the people that are at the top of those ranks are the ones that are actually going to have to like deconstruct all of that, so that there is a level playing ground, and then everyone actually becomes a conscious co-creator in a harmonious way, rather than a place where, you know, some people have all the power and some people don't even realize that it's a thing.
Wow. So do you think then that there's going to be a lot of destruction? Like, I don't want to focus on that necessarily, but you're saying like that person that's like at the top of the hierarchy, if has like a heart awakening, then all of his belief systems are going to have to fall apart, aren't they? And is that going to be an instant moment? Are you talking about, or are you talking about, is that going to be like a journey of, you know, like the healing that maybe you and I have done to get to this place?
Look, it certainly can happen instantly. Whether it's going to, I'm a little bit just saying that that's how it's going to go down. But look, everything is possible in the sense that like people can just have a moment of awakening. I mean, my moment of awakening was instantaneous.
Yeah, that's right.
And that, you know, it's just like a catalyst. Like one day you're living a regular life, and the next you go, oh shit, like there's a whole new reality. But I still took at least 12 months to integrate that. So I get that it can happen instantly. The shift can happen instantly. The vibrational shift can happen instantly. But how that translates into 3D, I feel like will still take a portion of time. And the length of time that it takes depends on a few things. One of them is how resistant people are to that change. Because you can have that moment of awakening, but be completely attached to your systems and structures, and all your ego can come in and you can fully resist the process, you know, or you can have a moment of awakening, go, I understand now. And you can in that moment surrender everything that you've created in your life, and suddenly just start a whole new way of living. So it's all possible, you know, it's all definitely doable in this field.
Yeah, I tapping into both of those potentials of it taking a long time and it also being very instant. And yeah, it does seem like the amount of resistance we have, but the amount of resistance we have against, say, changing seems to be diminishing by the day, because like the structures, like they're falling apart anyway. They're already proving, and they have done for quite many years now on the mass, like they're not that great, and they're pretty corrupt, and they're doing pretty rough things to other people. And so it seems like the resistance like might not even be there, and it might just be as quick as, you know, a year sort of thing to integrate. Or
it could be, it could be. And I mean, I've seen really for the whole transition to happen, I have seen about a decade.
Yeah, I'm feeling something similar.
You know, there's nothing stopping it from accelerating. It's just that, you know, when you've got that many people, there's like a momentum of that collective consciousness and all the beliefs and, you know, stuff that's been embedded for so long. So some of that stuff can just take time to really translate through into this reality while everyone's going through that process.
Yeah. And what do we think about what's the technology going to be like coming through? Because I imagining like these guys, you know, your mates and my mates and our mates from Actuarius and such, they've got some pretty cool gadgets. So what do you think they are? And yeah, have you got any insight on them?
I've seen so many high dimensional technologies. I mean, some of them I use in my healing modality. Things like, you know, light beds and just ways that you can like bring in light into people's field for healing. So healing technologies are huge, especially with the Actuarians. They're obviously very good at the healing stuff and the sacred geometries and all that. But then there's also like, you know, free energy technologies. And like one of the first times I had a telepathic communication with a being on a starship, me with my engineering brain, the first thing I asked him was not, how are you here? It was like, tell me about your starship and how it works and how are you presenting in this way?
I did a similar thing, Eesha. I was like, what's going on here? How does it operate? Like, I don't know why. I'm not an engineer at all, but that's so funny.
Fascinating, right? Like, it's just
so how do they work? What did you get?
Well, that particular one, they told me that it had to do with internal combustion and what did they say it was? It was implosion technology. They said that particular one, they were utilizing crystal, so light crystal technologies with implosion technologies, which this is the piece where, like, you know, I don't fully comprehend how this works for just like realistically, I don't know how this would go down, but what they've said to me is that the way they've managed to utilize technology is in a way that it's actually not even lossless, it's actually generative. So you can have a system that is generating power while it's moving that then recycles and generates back into itself.
Wow, amazing. I've seen that there's a huge sort of energy, almost like a huge quartz crystal, and that's connected to the consciousness of everybody on board. And that consciousness is like channeled into, say, one particular being. And that's it. So there's no energy behind it. It's just like will. It's just like, we're going here. And there's just nothing, basically. There's no technology. It's like we are the technology. And that's what I get now in my life. You know, it's like, actually, it's just slow here. It's actually like my consciousness creates something. I put will behind it and it manifests. But there's just time and lag and also distortion, because sometimes I want a blue car and I get a red car sort of thing, but it just seems so much cleaner, like the technology, just like that kind of so clean. And yeah, so that's exciting. Do you think that we're going to have like teleportation? I'm just going to go to England now.
I just want to come back to, so with the technology, the light technologies, I have absolutely seen that as well. And I know that the starships, every starship has a core crystal, and that core crystal is like, it's the center point of like the whole consciousness and the whole movements of like the spaceship. It's actually so much easier to drive a spaceship than it is a car.
Yeah.
Forms, right? It's
yeah.
So but I will say the conversation I was having with that being about the technologies was how it translates to 3D. So everything in the higher dimensions is in light forms, but when it translates to 3D, there is a physical element of that, and that's the piece I was really curious about. So I just want to like add a little bit. But yeah, so with the teleportation, I see no reason why it would be impossible. And I mean, I already know, like I've experienced energetic bilocation many, many times. You know, like I've just popped myself into different realities and seen things and so I would see no reason why that can't translate to a physical location, because the energetic part is already doable. Like you can take your consciousness and you can project into whatever time space, you know, reality you want. But then the physical part of that, I think, just needs a little bit of a higher vibration on this planet before the cells can actually go and
Yes,
be at that
it
level of
seems
light.
like we need to be a bit lighter, like a little bit less dense, and ultimately, like I'd almost be able to put my hand through my hand, sort of. That's what I'm getting at there. Yeah, and
Teleportation in a third dimensional density, I wouldn't say is impossible. I would say it's almost possible. It's very,
yeah,
very
potentially very ugly, potentially like, you know, like
Harry Potter. Right?
yeah, or like
Teleportation.
the Simpsons episode, yeah, with the fly, the Simpsons episode,
Oh
the fly
yeah,
goes.
yeah.
Bart and the fly, and then Bart becomes the fly, and
Yeah, that's good. I forgot
I
about
think
that.
that's it. Hey, I think that's actually what I'm tapping into anyway. And I actually get like I'm drinking water, and I'm just being self-conscious, like, oh, I drink so much water. I always drink water on these things when I'm talking to people. But I'm getting like this is actually such an important part of the process. Like this is me preparing my light body to, or like the cells to be able to hold more light is like the more liquid is going in there. And that's just what I was feeling right now talking to you about the teleportation thing. So drink your water, people.
Water contains oxygen, which contains life force energy. In saying that, though, can I have a mini little rant here? So,
Water and yeah, sure. I was not against
most of the water that we have on this planet is actually not connected to life force energy, and that makes me really sad. It makes me so sad. Like spring water still a little bit better, and rainwater, yeah, still has a bit of that vibration in it, but the life force energy that comes through running water that's come fresh out of a mountain is something that is just unparalleled, you know, to what we have like in the shops and stuff. And I feel it. Like I actually, you know, I struggle to drink enough water during the day, but it's because the water that I am drinking, I'm just like, oh, I'm not connected. Whereas if I am somewhere like Mount Shasta and, you know, you're collecting that pristine water coming out of the mountain, that, it's like I could just liters and liters and liters of that.
Yeah.
So rejuvenating. There's a lot of water, especially tap water. Tap water feels dead to me. I'm like, I can.
Tap water. Sorry.
Who drinks tap water?
Obviously, we're not talking about that.
Does anyone here drink tap water?
I know. God, come on, please.
Oh yeah, not cool. But yeah, look, spring water's all right, but really, you know, there's a severe lack of life force energy in water, and then that translates through, you know, a lot of the food that we eat. And like I had a meal for the first time the other day in months where I picked things from the garden here, like herbs, fresh herbs, you know, and I felt the energy in my body. It was like for the last 3 months I've been eating dead food, you know. It's just, yeah, it's just not that fun.
Yeah, I'm the same here. I've got a bunch of like beautiful leafy greens, and when you get them, suddenly it's like you just feel like this aliveness coming from them. You're like, oh my God. And that has become like, I realize that's something special, but it's not special. Like that's the normal, you know, like that should be the normal. We should have, and yeah, same with water, right?
One needs to go build a garden, right? Like just grow your own trees and connect back to it.
Yeah, well, lucky that's what my housemate does. So what do you how do you drink water? Like, do you just have a filter on tap water, or do you just go for spring water? Like,
look, I've been on the road since July, so it's like I make do with what I've got.
True.
Back home, I was getting spring water delivered regularly to my workplace and to my home, so I was able to do that. At the moment, I've been these ones are really good. They're balanced.
Yeah.
They're like $2 a liter, but holy shit!
Yeah.
Feel vibrationally, they actually feel really good.
Yeah.
So I do.
There's a couple out there like that. Yeah. A couple good ones like that.
And there's
Aqualove.
Yes, that's the one I was thinking of. Yeah, they're pretty.
Aqualove's got such a good feel. Would you recommend like doing something with your water before you're drinking it then? Like putting the energy back in?
Sometimes I'll sit with the water and I'll just bless it, but other times I'll be honest with you, I'm a bit lazy with it as well. But there's also this element of like, you know, you have to find the balance in things. Like for me, food and water, I'm like, okay, I know I'm probably not drinking the best water at times. I'm probably not eating the best food at times.
Yeah.
But just for my current present lifestyle, like especially traveling for months, it's been really difficult to really prioritize some of those things. Because I look at it and go, okay, well, there's a little bit of offsetting happening. If I do my daily meditation practice and then I drink a little crappy water, I'm like, can they just balance itself out and and still keep my energy high? It's not ideal. It's totally not ideal, and I totally get that. And in an ideal world, I would have all the clean water, all the, you know, fresh garden food, and I'd be able to travel, and I'd be able to eat organic every day, and I'd be able to do all those things. But the world, the reality that we live in doesn't facilitate that. And I've just had to make choices around what I prioritize. And what I'm prioritizing is the work that I'm doing and being in the place that I need to be. And so I just offset certain things with my energetic practices and go, you know what, it's okay. I'm not going to die. It's all good.
I fully get that. It's like we're swimming in a big old black soup of disgusting stuff. And it's like, we can't like try and refine everything around us that we're taking in. And that's including information as well and energy that is out there. Like we're going to come up, but that's what we're here for. We're here to like, swim in a density sort of thing. And we have to pick our things that we're actually going to choose. Like,
and it's a time thing as well. It's like I could spend 2 hours a day preparing food, and if some people feel called to do that, that's fine. I just know that that's not my thing. I mean, I'm well known for ordering on Uber Eats every second day. You know, like everyone knows that. And it's just part of the lifestyle that I've chosen to optimize my time so that I can put my time into things like this, which is like, you know, all day, every day for me. And then knowing that there are other things that at the moment are not my number one priority. But then I look forward to having my own personal reality one day where there is a little bit more balance towards those other things, because when I've shared enough of what I need to share and taught enough people that I need to teach, then I can sit back a little bit and maybe focus more on just having my own garden and doing those things, which at the moment right now are just not part of my lifestyle.
Yeah, I think it's like making the sacrifices now because later there's going to be a whole bloody new revolution.
Yeah, and I'm so looking forward to that day. I can't wait. Like my dream is to just like have taught enough people that the vibration is so high on the planet that I can sit on the beach drinking coconuts and have my garden and have my animals.
Yeah, enjoy planet Earth.
Yeah, exactly. To actually be in that Garden of Eden. But I just don't feel like personally I could do that until I have brought a lot of people into that vibration with me. And so that mission part for me right now is really at the forefront of what I do, which means that some things do get left a little bit off to the side, knowing that there is that little bit of trade-off there.
Yeah, fully. I get that. Just looking at the comments.
There's Fruit. People watching. Hey, Christy and Ben and Justina, Ivan.
Yay. All right, cool. Where should we go next?
Pick my brains, Dylan.
Pick your brains.
Like, surely you want to know all the things.
Well, you know, because I'm like you. I'm becoming more like you in the fact that like that's your game and that's awesome, and this is their game. And I have spent years loving external sources of information, but more and more, it's just like I just gotta trust the stuff that I get. I gotta trust the beings I connect with, and whether that's a good connection or a bad, like a clear connection or not. I'm just like, whatever, that's meant to be that way. It's meant to be this way. However, that doesn't mean that I don't.
You're playing the role of the audience. So if you're the audience, what are they doing?
yeah, right. Well, I want to go back to Lily and Ashtar because let's talk about Ashtar.
Yeah.
And who he is. How do you know him? And what's he like?
Oh, he's my bro, man.
He's your bro.
The coolest.
Where does he live?
Currently on a starship called the Phoenix.
Phoenix. Oh, okay, cool. And how do you get in contact with this man?
Well, Ashtar is actually a really easy one because there are lots of photographs of him online. So Ashtar is one that's very forward-facing for humanity, and he does appear to a lot of people. So you can Google Ashtar, and you can find the most common picture is him with his hand up, and he's got this 7-point star. And when you actually connect into that geometry, you can connect with his energy.
So is that a matter of like really getting clear and fine-tuning into that frequency with that particular being?
Yeah, part of it's definitely intention. I mean, with all beings, and of course you have to discern, but if you're just starting out, I mean, just, look at that photograph of him and connect into the geometry and then invite his presence, you know, and he's there, like he's very present to those who ask.
Yeah, I definitely experienced that. And he's meant to be this galactic commander, right? And he's actually like the almost like a leader in this coming together of galactic civilizations, Earth and others. Where do you think, is he got a primary like location? Like, is he like quite Syrian, or are you talking like someone that's a bit more from the Pleiades? Like, is that, because I don't get that from Ashtar, but what do you get from him? Like, is he from somewhere? Or
I have not felt that he sits in one of those spectrums either.
yeah,
If anything, is slightly more Arcturian, but Ashtar, I just see him in his, I mean, it's a color for me. It's a specific blue ray I see him in. And it's very connected to like the Gabriel and the Archangel Michael ray, which the whole Ash ray comes through that. Like, the whole Ash, so Ashtar, and then his two brothers, Ashura and Ashira, they all come through that spectrum as well. And then his twin flame is Imira or Isis. So she's actually got the white Phoenix starship, and he's got the Phoenix, which is the blue starship, and they're together.
Wow, you're making a lot of reality make sense to me now. Cool. Cool. Because I relate to that Ash ray and that blue ray quite a lot. And
yeah, because everyone that so anyone who's a client of mine is in that same spectrum. Like, that's pretty much a thing where if you're working with me in a client sort of setting, especially in origin activation, you would have to be part of that soul group, because for me to be able to work with you that closely energetically, there has to be that level of soul connection there.
So what do you make of like the starseed sort of dynamic, or the differentiation between these different star portals and the different beings that come from there? And then we identify ourselves with like, oh, I'm an Arcturian, or I'm a Syrian. And what do you make of that game?
Yeah, you need to ditch that.
yeah.
That's so not how it works. That is so oh my god. It's yeah, look, I have to say, I say this with a lot of love and compassion. It's beautiful that people are starting to awaken into these connections. And when I first started awakening as well, I was like, oh, I must be Pleiadian. And I thought that for years, until I realized that we're all multidimensional beings and we have all the connections. And so I am connected to the Pleiades, and I'm connected to Arcturus, and I have Syrian connections, and I have Andromedan connections, and I have angelic connections. I have my angelic 9D self, Anahera, and I have a 5D self called Lily, who's friends with Arnop, who is a 5D representation of Ashura, and suddenly the whole thing gets really complicated and you're like, who am I again? So yeah, like you have an existential crisis when you go down that road, because then you have to start asking a lot more questions.
I know that's where I'm at. So I'm like, oh, I don't go there, it's too much. Like, you've got it mapped out okay, but I know you're only like actually just scratching the surface, and I think it'll all become clear one day when they land and I go, oh yeah, that's what's going on, okay. But I get, and okay, the question is Lily, right? So Lily's like your higher dimensional aspect. Does she reside at a particular location?
She's currently on board the Aru Terra permanently.
She lives on the starship.
Yeah.
But that's actually
she's anchoring through me, so
yeah,
she has to be. If we're talking about physical proximity, she's quite close to the planet, and she has been for a number of years. As long as I've known her, she's always been etherically in the atmosphere of the Earth.
But right, there's this thing, because they're not actually, we think that's going to be a long time, and she's just sitting there waiting around, and in between you connecting with her and you whatever having lunch, she's just like, yeah, bored. But that's not the way it works, right? Because their time
there is no boredom.
yeah. But I get like they're here, but their presence being here connecting with you in Eesha's life of say 70 years is actually just like an intentional moment for them.
Right. Yeah.
Is that right? Like,
definitely. Yeah. Time moves very differently in that space.
Right. And that's so unfathomable. How can we get that? What's the next moment for Lily? Do you know? Like,
well, it's only ever what's in the present moment. It's like, over here I'm focused on this thing, and then over here I'm focused on this thing, and so there's focuses, but yeah, time is just, it's not linear. Like, you can be over here and then you can be over there, and it gets weird.
Wow.
Can I just say though, so the Aru Terra at the moment is actually underwater. I don't have an exact location at the moment, But I had this little running joke with Star Family yesterday. I was like, guys, can you send me into a submarine so I can go see my starship? So I'm just putting it out there. I'm like, guys, I want to be on a submarine now.
Like an interdimensional sub.
I'm actually getting visions of, you know, when you're in an aquarium and you're like in the underwater thing and you're seeing all the fish.
Yeah.
It's literally like that. So I'm seeing the starship underwater. They're doing some deep anchoring at the moment, like under the ground. And like I was tuning into Lily the other day and I could see through her eyes, through the big glass of the starship, that there was just like all these colorful fish and like there was an octopus. I was like, oh my God, this is so cool.
Wow. Do you know what they're doing there?
They're not telling me at the moment. There are certain things where like, because my role is so public, like I'm so like at the forefront of, you know, people, there are some things that there's just a little bit of cushioning there. So whatever they're doing is top secret and I can't know about it because if they tell me, I can't keep a secret and I would just blurt it out on a show like this. And so there are some things that are just kept a little bit buffered from me so that they don't go out until they're actually ready to go out.
Okay, so they tell you that? They like, hey, nah, we can't tell you this bit, or like, stop it, or...
Yep.
Yeah,
and this
really?
year they've told me a lot less than normal because when March came around and all the timeline shifts started happening, I had a full pivot in my role. So I went from being sort of like a little bit behind the scenes and then a little bit on the forefront to Eesha, you're going full forefront. So that's when I launched my group programs and I started running webinars and I started reaching more people. And so my role became a lot more people facing and I started receiving a lot less of what was happening behind the scenes because they're like, Eesha, you can't tell the people this yet. And so I know there's a level of like, you know, like staggered information coming through. And even stuff like this is only because I got so guided a few weeks ago to just start sharing all of this stuff in a much more public forum that now I can share this. But I've known this stuff for years. Like behind the scenes, I've been doing all this stuff for many, many years now. And only now it's like, yeah, now you can share this piece. But they're still not telling me the whole thing because there are things that just can't be put out into the public forums just yet. There's a lot of top secret stuff that goes down. Like I get the important pieces and there are some things that I just literally, I can't say them because there's just, there's too much at stake.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. Like it affects reality and my decision next and whatever. There's a question here from Despina. Was he ever human? I think she's talking about Ashtar.
He was Toth.
Oh, that would have been what, like 5,000 years ago?
Yeah, whenever that would have been.
Again, you're just unlocking my reality again. Wow, okay. Well, there you go. That's quite a simple, straightforward answer. Anything more to add to that, Eesha?
Well, they've had multiple incarnations. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure, was Ashtar Leonardo da Vinci or was that Merlin? I think that was Tanabor, actually, which is Merlin. So Tanabor is Merlin, Ashtar is Toth.
Merlin's a real person? Merlin. Isn't Merlin like a fictional character? TV series.
I'm hearing he was real.
Wow. Mythological figure. Well, mythological figures are basically real. We just didn't want to admit it because they had magic powers. Basically, that's how humans been created. So yeah.
There's a whole thing about like the Arthurian stuff, and when I went to the UK last year, I started piecing together a lot of those bits.
Yeah.
Because there was King Arthur, but also earlier this year, Lancelot came up. Actually, in our group, like there were a couple of people that started tuning into Lancelot, and so I was feeling into who that energy is, and I felt Lancelot was not Tanabor, but closely connected to Tanabor. So there were just some threads coming in there through. So Tanabor, for those of you who don't know, is a higher dimensional being connected with the Orion star system and
he's my friend.
Brotherhood of White Light. He comes through, and again, a very specific blue frequency. And his twin flame is a girl in the Netherlands. It's a girl in the Netherlands.
A real life human girl.
Actual human, yeah.
Damn, that's cool.
Yeah, I know who she is.
That'd be cool. Where's your twin flame?
Oh, that's. I'm like, it's 5 minutes to go. Can we make that next episode?
No, that's definitely this episode. No, yeah, let's do that though. We can do that because that's a whole freaking.
We could do the whole series on twin flames. I mean, goddamn.
I was tuning into one of your old videos on twin flames, and I was like, oh.
I need to delete that one. I need to delete.
Yeah, I know. I didn't want to mention it because I know how it feels.
I'm gonna get off this call right now.
Yeah, I know.
Because the truth that I was perceiving back then is not 100% accurate to what it is now. Because now I have deeper levels of understanding of all of that. And the whole twin flame thing, having gone through like 3 years of that at such an intense level, I learned a lot about what a twin flame is and also what a twin flame isn't. And a lot of the projections and just, I mean, we can make the entire next episode about that. I think that'll be good because I never ended up thinking that trajectory, because I did those first few videos and then I had a whole reality flip and I never actually have gone back and corrected and shared publicly that whole part of the journey. So it's never been aired before.
Get your questions in. Twin flames to Eesha. What the hell are they?
The answer to most questions are going to be like, no, he's probably not your twin flame. Just as a blanket, like.
It's Ashtar my twin flame. I think Ashtar's my twin flame. I'm pretty sure. I don't care what you say, Eesha.
I'm like, but I know Ashtar's twin flame.
Yeah. No. That's
and it's funny, like this will be good, Dylan, because there's a lot of stuff about twin flames, but there's also a massive cosmic joke that I have going on with this whole twin flame thing, and I get why it needs to be that way, and it's hilarious, and I'll just go into like,
what do you mean?
Okay, so I can connect into every single person's twin flame and every galactic guide and every universe, multiverse, and yet do not have a name for my own twin flame. It's literally become a joke now.
Whoa.
Guys,
I think you're blocking it from yourself, Eesha. You don't want to know. Obviously.
There's a whole thing there.
So can you connect to my twin flame?
I can connect to everyone's twin flame, except when it comes to my own.
Okay.
And I've asked about this so many times, and they just keep saying to me, they're like, just wait, it'll make sense when the timing is right.
Well, if you knew, it would mess it all up.
Well, this is what it is. This is the thing, right? It's like, again, this is the buffering of like, there are certain things you can't know until the timing is right, because it would shift the trajectory so drastically. But I know when I'm connected to it. I know the feeling of that. I just don't know his name. And I know what he feels like in my body, and I know what that energy feels like in my body. And so this is it. Like, I'm at the point now where I'm just laughing about this whole thing, going, this is ridiculous. Like, I can have any person sitting in front of me, I can pick their twin flame energy, I can pick all these connections for everyone else, and yet they're telling me, just wait, Eesha, just wait, we'll tell you when it's time. I'm like, really, guys? Like, I've given them enough attitude about this, don't you worry.
Wow. Well, I think me listening to that, if it helps, like, I totally understand why. Like, that's not, you don't need to know that. And it would be not only like, you don't want to know it. Like, you don't actually want to know it. Like, no, it's going to be better.
I feel like it would ruin it. I feel like it would.
Yeah, exactly. It would be so much better and magical and whatever synchronicities and magic. Look, this is amazing. Like, I just seen like a big fat, excuse the analogy, but juicy steak of a conversation that we've just started, and it's like right at the end. But so let's do that next week. And honestly, yeah, that's awesome. It's gonna attract all the people in now, because twin flames is like it's like the one. Hey,
everyone in. I think this is why I've been hesitant to do it, because there's so much charge around the word.
It feels good, because I've had so much charge around it. Like, I've got my whole story there, and unbelievable how insane it made me. And the mental fuckery that occurs with that paradigm, like, not cool. And I'm talking both reality and distortion, and trying to find out clarity and truth in that. It's like, whoa, we need to unveil like 99.9% of the stuff is kind of distorted. So I'd love to open the space for that one. And I feel ready as well. I'm like, feel ready for that conversation. I wouldn't have been ready for this.
Such a fun conversation. Part of me is like, am I ready for that conversation? I haven't brought this stuff up in years. I know, Dylan, you're around my old videos and stuff, and you posted that one the other day about the inner. I forgot those videos existed. Like, I can't believe I even put them out. Like, there's a part of me that's thinking I need to go back and like,
you do
what's on there.
You do. I watched 5 minutes of the twin flame one, and I was cringing. I was like, Eesha, no. I mean, it was pretty high level. It was pretty like, but So everyone, don't go look at that right now. Give Eesha a few minutes so she can go and delete it.
They're all gonna go look at it now, Dylan. They're all gonna go look at it. I'm gonna go
just
right now and delete the video so no one can see that version of it.
yeah, please don't. It's better for humanity if you just wait till next week.
Exactly.
Right. And any questions, throw them out. We'll have them for Eesha and we'll sort of talk about it next week. And
sounds good.
Wow, awesome, so good. I'm so glad. Oh, I'm excited.
Thanks, Dylan.
All right, sweet, Eesha. Thanks so much for being here, and
bye, everyone.
much love
For joining.
Bye, everyone. Bye, bye.